My first guest is one of the most opinionated people in sports commentary today, and he's also a soap opera star. Please welcome to Money Making Conversations, ESPN Stephen A. Smith.
What's going on, big time? How are you, man?
I'm doing very well. I know you're in the New York market up there. I'm down here in Houston, Texas, doing my live show on Monday. We talked a couple of times while you were vacationing and relaxing, but every time you look around, man, it's all about money, brother. It's all about big money in sports.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you know, when I'm on the lecture circuit, a lot of times when I'm giving a speech, one of the things I tell people every chance I get, of all the goals I have, and I have many, as you well know.
Yes, sir.
There are two goals that stand out when I'm working for somebody. Goal number one, I walk into work every day thinking about how I can make my bosses more money.
Yes, sir.
Goal number two, how can I get my share of it?
Thank you.
It all starts from there. Because if you don't have that mentality, then you're not paying attention to value. Not just the value of the corporation that you represent and you work for,
right?
But you're not paying attention to your own value.
Right.
Because when you think about monetizing things for somebody else, it breeds from the fact that you're trying to elevate your monetary value.
Absolutely.
And when you understand that mode of thinking, then it makes everything purposeful in terms of your approach to doing the things that you do on a daily basis, and it inspires you to move forward and to make things happen because you're planning on reaping the benefits of your productivity.
Let me ask you this, Stephen A. I'm on the phone with ESPN, Stephen A. Smith from First Take, a show that I actually record. If I miss it, if I miss you live, I got to record it. Okay, so on DVR. What makes you know? I've been fan since Skip Bayless was on there. Now you're doing your thing with Max and Molly as the co-host. What makes that show so special? First Take.
Well, for me personally, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Number one, everybody believes they're an armchair quarterback, for lack of a better phrase.
Even me.
Even you, especially you, actually. But you know your sport, so I'm not going to hate on you. The reality is clear. It's like it doesn't matter. I remember I told this to Max one day when I was debating him about the art of debate off the air. And I said to him, "You got friends, don't you?" He said, "Of course." I said, "Jay, you're hangout buddies, right?" He said, "Absolutely." I said, "You're the foremost authority on boxing, and you're an insider. Isn't that correct?" He said, "Yeah, that's why I work on HBO." I said, "How many times do your boys argue with you?" He said, "Every day." I said, "Because they think they know, even though you're in the profession, you have access. And as a result, you have a license to pontificate and editorialize and opine, et cetera, because you're coming from an informed perspective.
Right. But
you still can't tell them anything because they think they know." That's the world of sports. And so what happens is that when you look at First Take is a debate show where folks are supposed to give you multiple angles.
Right.
Chances are 99.9% of the time you are going to agree or disagree with somebody.
That's right.
On the show. And so that's one of the compelling elements. The other one is, you know, and I take pride in this, I don't wake up every day thinking about what I want to talk about. I wake up every day thinking about what you want to hear about. And those are the subjects that I tackle. I don't sit up there and it's my show, and because of that, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I read the papers. I listen to radio. I watch television. I know the news. I know current events. I know what's going on. And based off of that, along with my journalistic background that spans 25 years, even though a lot of people want to ignore that, I've been a journalist for 25 years. It's my job to know what's resonating and percolating in the mind's eye of the viewing, listening, and reading public. And those are the subjects that I tackle. So you combine the interest of the fan, collaborating that with the art of debating, knowing that you're going to touch somebody's trigger points and pulses, and I believe that's what makes the show successful.
It is successful. Now, okay, this is Money-Making Conversations, so let's get started. You've been seeing them on the media tour, 4 cities, the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather promotional tour. Your thoughts and your thoughts on who actually going to win?
Well, first of all, to answer the second question first, If Floyd Mayweather loses, it'll be the biggest upset in the history of boxing, because you're having somebody who is universally recognized as one of the best who have ever done it, who would lose to a guy that has never been in a boxing ring in his career. It's something that's never happened. It's something that no one on the planet would predict would happen with any sense in their brain. Floyd Money Mayweather in a boxing ring should completely outclass and destroy and embarrass Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor.
But Stephen A., let me just say this. But a lot of rumors out there saying that, hey, if he loses, there's a bigger check in a rematch.
Well, you could say that it's a bigger check in a rematch, but it doesn't negate the fact that it would still be the biggest upset in the history of boxing and an extreme level of embarrassment for Floyd Money Mayweather.
Undefeated.
Now, if he doesn't care about that, that would be different. But other than his money, what does Floyd Money Mayweather brag about more than anything? The fact that he's undefeated.
Right.
That 49 have tried and 49 have failed, even though some guys he fought twice.
Right.
In the end, what it comes down to is that unblemished record is attached to his legacy. And if you're going to compromise it, it would be one thing to lose to Canelo Alvarez. It would be one thing to lose to Triple G. It would be one thing to lose to a young lion like Errol Spence Jr. or a Terrence Crawford. But to lose to a guy who's never boxed in a boxing ring in his career, it would be the greatest and biggest embarrassment any boxer has ever experienced in history.
Now, let me ask you, on the word embarrassment, has the promotional tour been an embarrassment?
Not to me.
Okay.
It's a pugilistic sport. If this were basketball, football, baseball, things of that nature, I would be ashamed of what I'm seeing.
Right.
But in the sport of
tickets.
boxing, it's a pugilistic sport. You have a license to assault, but also the license to be assaulted.
Right.
And as a result, anything that you can do to get inside of somebody's head and mind, to mess with them, to make them over anxious, to energize and invigorate them in a way that may compromise their level of poise, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, especially if you're Conor McGregor, and here's why. As much as people may have been put off by his comments towards Floyd Money Mayweather, I didn't embrace it as an indictment against black people because he kept calling Floyd Money Mayweather boy and all that stuff.
Right.
I don't like it. Please don't get me wrong. I don't like it one bit. As a black man, I don't like it.
But you're getting in his head, though.
But I wasn't offended by it because I didn't believe his comments were geared towards me.
Yes, sir.
It was geared towards that guy he's going to be in that ring against on August 26th. And the Conor McGregor that I have seen has religiously and perpetually antagonized, irritated, humiliated, and denigrated every single opponent that he has gone against. What he's doing with Floyd is nothing that he hasn't done against any other fighter. And then on top of it all, he backs it up by going into the ring and or the octagon and knocking dudes out. Now,
and he's funny,
too. That to Floyd, but he's done it.
And he's funny, too.
Yeah, but I'm not even going by that so much, Rushion. It's just that for me, you know, you have to look at things from a contextual perspective.
Right.
You got to look at it and say, okay, this dude is doing this. What is it that we're talking about with Floyd? We're not just talking about a great undefeated champion. We're talking about a guy, no matter how bright the lights shine, he is ultra cool and poised under pressure. But he is the guy that has been primarily responsible for the promotional and marketing arm of his fights for the last decade. Now, I know Floyd personally. I've spoken to him on many occasions, and Floyd was looking so much to this fight, not just for the money. He was like, Stephen A., for once, I don't have to work. This guy will promote all on himself. He said, and I've never had that available to me.
And he's doing it. He's doing it.
Promotion. And Conor McGregor is doing it. Give the man credit for it.
Awesome, awesome. Now, we got to go to a break, Stephen A. As usual, you can talk, brother, and I love you about that. But when we come back from the break on Money Making Conversations, I got to ask you about, because we always talk about that soap opera career.
I'm willing. I'm here.
General Hospital. If you don't know about his soap opera career, you're about to learn about Stephen A. starring on General Hospital. And he's going to tell you the history of why he has a passion for General Hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with Stephen A. Smith, Money Making Conversations. We're also going to ask about the Ball family, LeVar and LeVon. We're back with my special guest from ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Money Making Conversations. Stephen A.
Yes, sir.
You had him on the show, the daddy. He's been making headlines everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. And I thought about this. What is the difference between LeVar Ball and what he's doing with his son and what Richard Williams did for Venus and Serena Williams?
Well, when Richard Williams was making noise, it was after his daughters had established their greatness and the fact that they had arrived on the scene. LeVar Ball was prognosticating and pushing his son forward, and he made his son more relevant than he actually was. Richard Williams capitalized off a relevance that had already been established. LeVar Ball used his mouth to make his son relevant, even though his son was gifted, even though he was playing well at UCLA.
Yes, sir.
He became more of a cult-like figure and more of a box office individual because his dad was running his mouth about him as opposed to his game. Whereas Venus and Serena, their game showed up long before Richard Williams' mouth did.
I'd say that. Can the Knicks ever play basketball? The New York Knicks, can they ever play basketball again?
Not for the foreseeable future. They stink. Let's be real. They're awful. But at the same time, I do think that they took a huge step in the right direction by getting rid of Phil Jackson. He was an absolute joke and an abomination as an executive. Even though he was an 11-time champion as a head coach, he was horrible as an executive. He never wanted the job. He laughed to confidants about how he never wanted the job, but he couldn't help himself because James Dolan just kept upping the ante and throwing more and more money at him. And as a result, he took the job simply to be the face of the organization to keep pressure off of James Dolan, so James Dolan could play his guitar and run his businesses outside of Madison Square Garden and be happy with that. That's why Phil Jackson took the job. He didn't take it to do the work. A perfect example is Shaq's unveiling of the Shaq statue at the Staples Center a few months ago.
Shaq gave you that shout out. I was watching.
Well, that's my brother. You know that. He and I tight. And he was there. And what was very, very telling is that the great Irvin Magic Johnson was not in attendance. Mm-hmm. There was a video that was played, and Magic said, "I would love to be there. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there, big fella, but you know I got this new job. It's called President of Basketball Operations for the Lakers here, and I got to be out scouting." That night, UCLA was scheduled to play Kentucky in the NCAA tournament. Okay,
Thursday night,
Magic Johnson couldn't be at Shaq's statue's unveiling because he was out scouting. Yet somehow Phil Jackson, who never travels anywhere but to L.A., by the way, for road trips, is sitting next to his ex-fiancée Jeannie on the podium with Shaq and Kobe, and I'm like, why the hell ain't you scouting? The same excuse that Magic Johnson provided to us, not an excuse, but the same reasoning that Magic Johnson provided, that's exactly what Phil Jackson should have done. But he didn't do it. And it was metaphorically speaking, it was just one of them things where you just said, this is the difference. Magic's out there doing the work, Phil's out there pretending to do the work. That's why Phil's going. So it's a step in the right direction, and I'm happy about it.
Now, we saw the collapse of the Clippers. Now, this is Houston talk now. Houston Rockets. They just gave James Harden the biggest extension, and I have nothing wrong with that. Him getting that money. He
deserves it.
He deserves it. Yep. Okay, but can Chris Paul, James Harden, who has to have the ball all the time, can they put a dent in Golden State Warriors? No,
they can't. No, they can't. They can put a dent in everybody else. They can get to the Western Conference Finals. But ultimately, they're going to run into the Golden State Warriors, and you have to remember, that's the Achilles heel. Yes, you have James Harden, okay? But if you're Golden State, you also have Klay Thompson.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you have Chris Paul, but if you go to State, you've got Steph Curry. And there is no answer for Kevin Durant. Now, it doesn't stop here for Houston because Carmelo Anthony desperately wants to be in Houston. He's informed the New York Knicks that he wants to get traded, that he's willing to waive his no-trade clause for one of two teams, either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Houston Rockets. He prefers to go to Houston. The problem is all Houston has to offer basically is the contract of Ryan Anderson, and that's not nearly enough. The New York Knicks are not going to take that. That's why you're hearing all of these stories about these multi-team deals. 3 or 4 teams are involved in the mix because what the Knicks are looking to do is they're looking to get equitable compensation for Carmelo Anthony, and Houston can't offer that straight up. Now, Melo desperately wanted to leave because his relationship with Phil was pretty much over.
Right.
But now that Steve Mills is the president of MSG, and he hired this dude, Scott Perry, who's a longtime league executive, African-American, well-deserving of this opportunity, certainly waited too long to get this opportunity. He deserved it years ago. He's now the new general manager for the New York Knicks. So because of that, they're hoping that they can change Melo's mind. But from what I'm told, even though Melo has no problem with them, he wants to go to Houston. So if Daryl Morey and those other guys are able to pull off something, get multiple teams involved, including the Phoenix Suns, who just won a second-round pick, and they're willing to give that up for Eric Bledsoe, then fine, so be it, it's good. But it's going to take a multi-team deal in order to get Melo to Houston. We'll see if they can pull it off, but that is definitely number one on his list. He wants to be in Houston with Chris Paul, one of his best friends in the world, along with James Harden. That's where Melo wants to go.
But aren't we still short, Draymond Green?
I agree. But at the same time, you got bounced out in the Western Conference semifinals. Some imposter wearing James Harden's jersey didn't show up for Game 6 of the semifinals against the Spurs. I don't know who the hell that was because, I mean, James Harden was my leading league MVP candidate. I love his game. I love him as a person. He's a great guy. But that particular night, I didn't even recognize him. I mean, think about this. James Harden, who averaged 29, 11, and 8.
Yes, sir.
Went the first 18 minutes of the game without attempting a shot in a playoff game. Now, that don't make any sense. Something was wrong. I think somebody spiked his drink. They spiked his Gatorade, or they stole his jersey. Something happened. An investigation needs to take place because that wasn't the James Harden that I know and love.
Right,
All I'm saying is that with CP3, and especially if Melo arrives, there's no doubt in my mind it will be good enough for them to get to the conference finals so long as they don't have to run into Golden State before then.
Wow.
I think they would get to the conference finals, but that's it.
Cool. Now, with the NBA, for some reason, I'm so excited about the NBA because I've actually been watching Summer League basketball.
Well, listen, you got young talent, and these are young cats on the come up, but I got to tell you something. You want me to tell you the real reason why you were watching Summer League basketball? LaVar Ball. LaVar Ball made you want to watch Lonzo.
Yes.
And wanting to watch Lonzo made you want to watch De'Aaron Fox out of Kentucky, Malik Monk out of Kentucky.
Money.
And, you know, and all of these other guys. It made
Josh Jackson.
That's right. Josh Jackson's going to be special. This kid, Dennis Smith Jr. out of North Carolina State. As long as he keep his head on straight and get rid of those ridiculous tweets like Mark Cuban made him do, he'll be fine. But I think those guys, I think you've got what Lonzo Ball made you want to do is not just watch him and imagine and fantasize him running the Lake Show. It also made you want to look at the other talents that have been ignored, comparing them to him and seeing what everybody has and imagining what they're going to do on the next level. I give all that credit to LaVar Ball.
Well, I would tell you this. The talent, I haven't seen talent like this, I'll be honest with you, since LeBron came into the league. I'm talking, you know, when they're first 10 and even more, because I think Kuzma, that boy's going to clown with LeVon being his point guard in L.A. Laker uniform.
Lonzo,
Lonzo. I apologize. Lonzo Ball, the point guard, rookie, second pick in the draft. So it all rounds up to be special. But before I get off the air, because I know I got to talk about this, your soap opera career. I got to shift a little gears from money making conversation to talk about something you love, because you've actually had prolonged conversations about your acting. Because you've called me and said, Rushion, did you see the episode? What do you think?
Well, listen.
General Hospital. Here's the star of General Hospital, Stephen A. Smith.
Well, I would certainly not take that from Maurice Bernard, a.k.a. Sonny Corinthos and the crew.
I know. Just joking.
General Hospital is a soap opera I've been watching for more than 40 years. I was raised by 5 women. You know, my mom, who recently passed, along with my 4 older sisters. You know, and so what you have is, you know, you got 4 older sisters, and you come into the house, and you're not allowed to watch TV unless you're going to watch the soaps, because all the TVs was on General Hospital. And so I started watching it before I was 10 years old, and I never stopped. You know, I mean, I go back to the days of Luke and Laura, Frank Smith, the Machine, and all of that stuff. I mean everything. And so, You know, I remember I showed up for a cameo in 2007, and two of the oldest characters on the show cornered me, and they said, "You're supposed to be some expert on General Hospital," and they were bringing up storylines. I said, "Actually, that's incorrect. This was the storyline, and this is the year it happened." And they couldn't believe it, and so you know that was the only appearance, but it was only for 10 seconds. But they saw me on First Take one day, and everybody was teasing me about General Hospital. I'm like, I'm not apologizing for anything. I love the show. And they asked me to come on. And when I came on and did a couple of scenes, Maurice Bernard, the star of the show, who is just incredible. He's an incredible actor, plus he's incredibly generous to me, spent time with me going over the lines and everything like this. And he was shocked. I knew my lines. And he felt like doing it, the camera didn't faze me and that I was a natural at it. So the executive director, Frank Valentini, said, "Could you do a few more lines?" And the next time I came back, they gave me a few more lines. And I did that, and they said, "We want to make this a recurring role for you. My character's name is Brick. I'm a surveillance expert for the mob." And they wanted me to come on. And the third time I came on, I almost panicked because they sent me the script, and it was 4 pages of lines. I had over 30 lines, and I was in like 5 or 6 different scenes spanning 2 days. And you got to remember, because of budget issues and everything like that, because it's a money-making conversation, the soap opera industry isn't what it used to be. You had some of those shows that are canceled, but you still got Young and the Restless with my man Eric Braden, who stars as Victor Newman. He's a personal friend of mine. And you've got Maurice Bernard on General Hospital. Those are the 2 most successful soap operas. But they cut back from the standpoint that instead of having multiple takes and stuff like that, you need to be able to do stuff in 1 or 2 takes.
And move on.
And so for a very novice, inexperienced, amateur guy like myself who had very little interest in acting, I mean, I was sweating bullets, man. But but the star of the show was coaching me through it, and he was like, "I've been with people whose profession is acting. They've gone to Juilliard. They've gone to other schools. They've studied this stuff. They don't have what you have. When the lights come on and the camera's rolling," he said, "the poise that you show, it's a natural gift." Absolutely. Ice Cube and others looked at me. They were like, "When you going to Hollywood?" So suddenly I'm a little bit more interested in acting, but it's all for fun. I actually just enjoy being around folks who are doing it because they're so exceptional and they're so great. And plus, you can get away with anything because you're playing a role.
Absolutely.
You know
Absolutely. Hey, Stephen A. Hey, man. You promised me 2 breaks. You're giving me more than I can ask for, my brother. I know you're busy. You got your radio show starting in about 30 minutes, correct?
I'm on vacation until next week, man.
Next week,
I'm on vacation.
So you broadcast on New York and L.A. Vacation next week.
I'm New York, L.A. terrestrial. I'm nationwide on Sirius XM Channel 80, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time every weekday, the Stephen A. Smith radio show. And, of course, I'm on First Take every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. I return to the airwaves for First Take July 31st.
My brother, appreciate you. Love you as a friend,
too, man.
as a younger brother. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Don't change, okay?
All right, my brother. We'll talk soon.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, that was ESPN Stephen A. Smith.